Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. Happy Tesla earnings week. The financial call will be held this Wednesday, April 19th at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Rather than uploading a YouTube video on Wednesday, I may just do a Spaces on Twitter that night if there's enough interest to talk about the results, and then I'll work in my biggest takeaways from the call in Thursday's episode. The way I see it, there are two numbers to watch. Number one, Tesla's automotive gross margin X credits. They said they'll be able to keep it above 20%, so we'll see if they can do it in Q1 and into Q2, because remember, not all of the price cuts will actually see the impact flow through to Tesla's financials until quarter two. And two will be Tesla's operating margin, because that's what they said they're optimizing for. It was 16% in quarter four of last year, and in Q1 of last year, it was 19.2%, just for some context. Wall Street will be closely watching the former. The US Treasury just came out and said that tomorrow, Tuesday, April 18th, VW, BMW, Nissan, Rivian, Hyundai, and Volvo will all be losing access to the $7,500 tax credit because of battery sourcing requirements. And when it comes to Tesla, of the Model 3 and Y variants, only one, the Model 3 standard range rear-wheel drive, will lose half of the credit, but the rest will get access to the full credit. I won't read them, so pause if you'd like, but here's a list of some of the vehicles that are losing the tax credit. GM put out a press release saying that their entire EV fleet will qualify for the $7,500 credit as long as the vehicle stays below the MSRP cap, meaning that both the Chevrolet Bolt EV and the Bolt EUV will continue to qualify for the full credit. So GM is currently delivering these three vehicles with full access, and these three upcoming vehicles will also have full access to the credit. This list is definitely going to change in the months ahead as some of these automakers that are now eliminated scramble to fix their supply chains so that they ultimately qualify. In the meantime, this link will be below so you can check which vehicles are currently qualified. As you can see, when it comes to Ford, 4 vehicles will currently qualify for half of the credit, while only 2 will get access to the full credit, both being F-150 Lightning variants. Jeep and Lincoln each have 2 plug-in hybrids that will qualify, but only one of the 4, the Aviator Grand Touring, gets the full credit. Speaking of Tesla, all Model 3 and Y variants do qualify for the full tax credit, again, except for the Model 3 standard range rear-wheel drive because the batteries come from China. Exactly what we've been expecting. As of now, there are only 22 vehicles on this list. When it comes to the mineral sourcing requirements, it looks like there will be 21 countries that are classified as having free trade agreements with the United States, and here's the list. Simply put, given that fewer models will be eligible for these credits as of tomorrow, that just makes Tesla relatively more attractive. I'd imagine there may be some analyst questions about Tesla's inventory numbers and days of inventory specifically slowly ticking up. While I don't think it's a problem yet, I just want to give us all some perspective. If you go back to 2019, you can see new vehicle inventory in stock and in transit. This purple line is the average for 2019, and here's where we're actually at as of last month. So the point is, while yes, inventory has been ticking up from where it fell to as of summer of last year, we're still actually well below pre-pandemic levels. In fairness, I'd be the first person to say maybe there's a new normal post-COVID where we don't actually return to these levels and sustain them. But just keep in mind, industry-wide, we're still only at about half of the inventory levels that we were used to seeing across 2019. And that just happens to play itself out in stats like this. Here we have the average weeks of income needed to purchase a new light vehicle, data from Cox Automotive. As you can see, from 2012 basically through 2021, that number hovered between 32 and 36 weeks of income. Then, over the past 2 years, that number has shot up about 20% to 43.2. Personally, I think this is a much better indicator of the affordability of vehicles rather than just an inflation-adjusted number, because this actually takes into effect the growth or lack thereof of wages. I'm showing you this because I think it highlights the reason Tesla is so laser-focused on dropping prices and giving up a bit of margin. They're really just trying to drive this number lower, at least when it comes to the affordability of Tesla vehicles. On that note, plenty of chatter lately about Tesla starting a price war, to which Elon said, "We're not starting a price war, we're just lowering prices to enable affordability at scale." A quick one we missed last week, Tesla had a patent published, which is different than meaning it's actually granted, but the short story is that this new suspension system could be a lot more sophisticated than the current air suspension that we've seen already in the Model S and X, so maybe, just maybe, this makes its way to the 3 and the Y. According to the new patent, it can dynamically alter the suspension strut length according to the current and expected road surface conditions. This will alter the strut shaft length by moving the strut's upper mounting point up or down, which of course changes the positioning of the wheel. I'll put the full patent below. This year's Shanghai Auto Show kicks off today and runs until April 27th. I believe the doors actually open to the public on April 20th, but this is a big deal for many future upcoming EVs as well as concept vehicles. I'm sure we'll hear a lot in the next week or so. The largest standalone battery storage facility in Arizona, meaning one not connected to any solar or wind generation yet, is underway and will use Tesla Megapacks, and this collaboration is set to run for the next 20 years. It's a 250 megawatt system, so if they're using 2-hour duration Megapacks, that could be around 500 megawatt hours divided by about 3.9 megawatt hours per megapack. This one project alone in the neighborhood of 128 Tesla Megapacks. You may recall the episode last week where I talked about the California solar policy changing and how I thought that would actually make the Powerwall even more attractive. Well, fast forward to today and Tesla Solar on Twitter confirmed that notion. I'll put this blog post on the topic from Tesla below, but we did touch on this already last week. How about this? According to one of Tesla's account managers, Karen Bowen, said that the Model 3 long-range rear-wheel drive version will now be available in the UK, but only for business or commercial purposes, aka for fleets. Deliveries are to begin in June. Fun fact, this variant was one of the first ones actually released when the Model 3 made its debut, but it only stayed on the market for about 2 years until Tesla shifted to the all-wheel drive variants. I don't want to spend too much time breaking this down because sadly there are no guarantees this variant makes it to the US market. But for the UK, this should be a great entry-level type of vehicle for business fleets that will get more range than the comparable all-wheel drive versions. We got some tidbits on Giga Mexico from a new interview with the governor of Nuevo León. Previously, people had talked about this factory being built in about 9 months, but after some negotiations, they're now saying it may take between 12 and 15 months. It sounds like the main reason for this delay or change in expectations is because of the new production line. It's basically still under development, saying right now that production line is in the workshop. It sounds like Tesla may be the bottleneck. The governor said we have to wait for the final render of this production line. Then as soon as Tesla tells us go ahead, we will start. They're still awaiting official information on this, but he said this is going to be the largest Gigafactory in dimension worldwide, even bigger by far than the one in Texas. Not surprisingly, the governor went on to talk about how Tesla setting up shop officially has now been a cause of Nuevo León receiving more than 70% of the nearshoring of the entire country. So yes, suppliers are apparently flocking to the region. And he added he thinks Silicon Valley is falling off and that Austin is becoming a hotspot or a hub for manufacturing and technology, and that because Nuevo León is only about 5 hours away, that location is destined to be the world hub of electromobility. Clearly, they have huge aspirations. There are some reports going around that workers at Tesla's Shanghai plant are upset and protesting because their performance-based incentives have been reduced due to a safety accident that happened earlier this year. Tragically, this mechanical accident that happened in the welding workshop was indeed fatal to one worker. Reuters is saying the government's investigation concluded there was some oversight and indirect cause on Tesla's end, but ultimately the worker was directly responsible. The reporting is that these quarterly bonuses have been cut by around $291. In response to this news, Elon said was alerted this weekend looking into it. Some Tesla vehicles had the automatic window features disabled for a time because of a NHTSA investigation, but now all of those features have been restored to all vehicles that lost them. So now all Teslas should again have the ability to vent or close the windows from the mobile app or automatically close the windows when the vehicle is locked, etc. This was a pretty interesting tweet from TeslaScope. They just confirmed that Project Highland leak was actually official, that it was a prototype build of the vehicle or an alpha version. So again, there may be some changes between that and the production version. More importantly though, in a discussion with a source, that person said they're also imminently switching away from in-house seats. Tesla has plenty of awesome features, but one of the really nice ones is their custom seats that they've made in-house at a factory in Fremont for some time now. Sandy Monroe literally uses a Tesla seat for his office chair. So this would be interesting and odd news, definitely something we'll keep an eye on. Jeff Roberts shared some new images of Giga Texas and specifically some interesting looking castings. Now I did see that Antonio from Monroe and Associates said these are just regular castings stacked top to bottom. Winners Echelon on Twitter shared this screenshot of the 2023.6.15 actually having the full self-driving beta. This is important because it essentially is merging these two branches. As we talked about prior, FSD was only on the 2022 branch. What this means in layman's terms is that now new users may be eligible to actually sign up and get access to FSD beta. Renault's CEO said that Tesla's price cuts are a warning to other EV manufacturers and that Tesla's price cuts would force the group to take a close look at its pricing policy worldwide. This is the reality for every automaker, whether they're willing to admit it publicly or not. He said Renault would need to analyze its pricing policies to just remain competitive in the market. Their strategy so far has been focused on increasing profitability by reducing the number of models it produces. Does that sound familiar? Porsche's global deliveries were up 18% year over year in Q1. However, sales of the Taycan were actually down 3% year over year, and they blamed the decline on the supply chain. Here's a vehicle to watch that's set to come to the United States market in 2024, VW's upcoming ID.7. It's supposed to have a 77 kilowatt hour battery pack and get an EPA range of around 300 miles. No word yet on pricing, and one other downside, it's saying it'll be built in Germany, which means no access to the tax credits. Plenty of you guys have hit me up with regard to Span's integration with Enphase, and I'm happy to report that that integration is now officially live. And here's something I think at least a few of you will be interested in exploring. You can find me on Twitter at DylanLoomis22. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Please like the video if you did, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.